Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. So, man, the weather's nice, and I'm starting to feel better. So again, thank you for your prayers. And TACMed, our very own TACMed, I think he's got a number after his name, Tactical Medic, right? He recommended that I chill out a little bit and take long, slow walks around the perimeter, kind of thing. I think he said something like that. So I've been doing that. And yesterday I probably walked, maybe 2 hours. And I overdid it a little bit. I told my wife, Sister Kate, I said, I think I walked more today than I have since I had the operation. And I was a little bit tired last night. But that's good, right? Because that means I need to get in better shape again. And so today I took a little walk, and I walked a different part of our perimeter. And as is my wont when I'm taking these walks, I pray. I think the big thoughts. I pick rocks, and sit down and have a look and just let the thoughts flow. And what I got to thinking about after watching a video last night from The Millennial Man titled Tribes, and I've been kind of hitting you all up on it, right? I think those of us who are in the know, those of us who are blessed enough to be preppers, if you will, should probably really start considering receiving visitors, receiving others, and being able to take care of them. Whether those others are just family members or neighbors or people who share your faith, whatever. I think we could all be put into a position where people are going to show up and you're not going to want to turn them away. Lots of dilemmas there, lots of things to think about. One big thing, I've talked about food all the time, I'm not talking about food today. One big thing is shelter. Where are these people going to sleep? I mean, are we going to stack them like cordwood in the living room? That's probably not effective long term. And so I think that everyone needs at least by family, private place to sleep. And what can you do? Because you're not made out of lots of money, not most of you. You can't just build guest lodging on your place. And so on my walk today, I saw a couple things I'm going to share with you. So number one, I teach wilderness survival. And if you can survive in this, you can survive anywhere else, right? You just use the techniques that you learned from living out here and you apply them to your urban or rural or, wherever setting you find yourself in. And so this right here, try not to make you dizzy, so I'll do a little slow spin. This right here is a shelter, a wilderness survival type shelter that we built, and I think 3 or 4 years ago. The Straightway Saints from Kansas City came down, and I gave them a couple classes on how to build shelters with tarps and natural materials. And my point of showing you this is, this has stood for a couple years. Now granted, all the leaves and little branches that were covering it and making it a shelter are gone. But that's an option, right? You could have your people make primitive shelters assuming that there's enough material. It's not a really good option though, right? I mean, bottom line, you want to get people out of the weather, out of the wind, out of the rain, out of the wet, preferably out of the cold. But I submit to you that if you have good enough sleeping bags, and another one of our Vikings, who I don't know if the Viking wants to be named or not, just sent me a link to some pretty cool sleeping bags that I'm thinking about buying. I have the Army, 30 below system, but I was thinking about getting a couple of these just to put aside for people who show up and I say, well, you can sleep here, here's a bag, something like that. If y'all are interested, I'll put a link to them. But a step up from that would be, of course, a tent, right? Well, one time I was a Boy Scout scoutmaster, and our troop had this warehouse, a storage room that just had years and years worth of stuff. And we decided to clean it out. And at one point, somebody, long before I got there, had decided to buy these cutesy little tents, 2-man tents, that were pop-up tents, literally. Like it was like you'd push this thing and it'd expand like an automatic umbrella, and the tent would be up. And guess what? that little device had broken on all of them because an 11-year-old boy can break all kinds of stuff. And so they were all broken. And I asked the people, does anybody want these? And they all said no, so I kept them all. And I mean, I think I have like 10 or 12 of those things. Now, some of them also had holes in them and this, that, and the other thing. And my thought was, well, if push comes to shove, I can rig up a different kind of frame for them and we can have, you know, massive amount of housing for people. I never did fix them up. I never did do anything. They're just taking up space elsewhere. But a tent is a good idea, and there are better tents than others. You know, wall tents are nice. You can get a wall tent with a stove. But here's the thing. Are you made of money? Are you going to buy 6 wall tents for the 6 families that are going to show up? I doubt it. I did a video on this with my son years ago. This is what, go slow. This is what we use for goat shelters out here in the wilderness. And this particular one, I'm going to take them down this winter. I told my wife we're not buying any more blue tarps. We're only buying green, brown, and gray tarps. Because look how that sticks out, right? It disturbs my shalom, right? But hey, this is a great idea. Now, let's go look at it a little bit closer. This right here is a rebar that they put when they're pouring a concrete pad, and we happen to get a lot of this free. And so we have this. But this stuff inside here, which looks very similar, is what they call livestock panel or cattle panel. And it's about 4 feet wide by 16 feet long. And you can get them at places like TSC and farm stores and stuff like that. And it's not that expensive. And what you do is you take it and you bend it over like this, and it makes a shelter that's 6 feet high in the center, and it's about 8 feet wide across the bottom. Now we have 2 of them, so then it's also 8 feet long. But you could put 10 of them, you know, and have a 40-foot long tube if you wanted to, and then you just cover it with tarp. And again, this tarp has been on here for a couple years, just sitting here. The reason it's doing so well is because it is tight, it doesn't flap around, and you know, it doesn't get beat up by the wind and all that. Plus it's under the shade in the summertime, and so the solar doesn't, you know, degrade it into nothing. We simply used zip ties to hold it on, like this, and it's a little shelter. Now, you don't have tents, but tarps are cheap. This stuff is pretty cheap, and you could just stack it up and have it ready to go when you needed it in your backyard or something. How are you going to heat it? Other issues, right? Like I said, you don't necessarily have to heat a shelter. It could, let's go out this way. It could just be for sleeping, and in that case, you just want it dry and out of the wind, and you give the people good enough sleeping bags, right, to sleep in it, and then you can be warm. I mean, I slept in the Canadian Rockies for the better part of 3 months, January through March, in a tent, and I'm still here, you know. Yes, we had really good sleeping bags, and we slept on cots with sleeping pads and that kind of thing. They were big tents, but we slept in tents, so you could do it. I'm going to show you something else over here. All right, this was going to be a cabin site for somebody. They changed their mind. We'll probably put one there eventually. So here's another one of our shelters right here. And again, I'm going to take this one down here eventually. Let's go look at it. Oof. This is our little milking stall. And I'm just showing you how you put the tarps on. This one's kind of been blown away a little bit. But see, this tarp comes up to here, and then we just get another tarp and come over the top and tie it down on the edges. And let's see. I know, I'm making you dizzy, right? Sorry. Let's go over here. Now it's like an obstacle course, the Shofar Mountain obstacle course. You can put end walls on them. That's what I wanted to show you. And this one is all gated off because we keep goats in there when we're milking them, and sometimes overnight and stuff like that. So that's an option. Another option, I got the question from somebody regarding the apprentice program. And when I sent out the packet, oh, hey, do not send me, after I send you the packet, if you ask for a packet because you're interested in coming, the 2 dates that I said. If you're not interested in those 2 dates, wait I'm not holding your applications. I got about 4 people who said, I can't come those 2 dates, but I'd like to come these dates in April and June and March. You're gonna have to apply again if and when we get to that point. I don't have the means or the will to file all this stuff away on a computer and hold it for later. And I don't want your personal information, so 2 weeks. And I'm pretty sure we filled the first week. I gotta talk to my wife about that. And we're looking at the second week that we had offered right now. All right, so anyway, I told the people in the packet that they can stay in a trailer they bring with them themselves. Trailers are good options. You know, I bought 2 trailers for $300 and under. I bought one for $200, one for $300. Now they were janky, but I lived in it for 2 years, right? And the cool thing about the trailers, even though they were nasty inside when I got them, but you know, paint and vacuum and clean wipes and stuff go a long way. The cool thing about both of them was, even though I paid $200 and $300, they both came with stoves. They both came with sinks and with showers and beds. I mean, you know, you couldn't build it for that. You couldn't buy those stoves and sinks and shower bays and stuff for that. And so for that, I thought it was a good deal. And so you could think about that too. But again, do you really want a trailer park set up on your property for something that may never happen, right? Probably not. But anyway, I told the people you can bring your own trailer. I said, or you can stay in a tent if you bring a tent. It's wintertime, or it will be. Or I said, you can stay in one of our cabins. I said rustic cabins. And I said, think garden shed. You know, I think people look at magazines and they see these beautiful cabins in the Adirondacks or whatever, and they say, oh yes, I'll stay in a cabin. No, they're like garden sheds, like a Tough Shed, the sheds that you see for sale in front of Home Depot and Lowe's. But you know what? A flat floor, a roof over your head, and some windows makes a pretty nice little place to stay, right? Compared to a tent, compared to that tarp shelter that I showed you. And so something I've always done, and I wish I could show them to you here on High Prairie Acres, we build all our sheds there, or the sheds that I bought, because I bought 3 Tough Sheds, with the thought of, hey, I can pull everything out of the shed, stick it on a pallet, put a tarp over it, move a family in there. Right? If you don't think a family can live in an 8x10 shed, I got something for you. We had a family with 4 children live here at Shofar Mountain for months in I think it's a 8x10. I should go measure it. 8x10 shed. Yeah, 6 people in there. Now, when I say live in there, you're not hanging out there during the day. You go in there, you go to sleep, you get up, you come out, we work. Right? When it's time to go to bed, you go back in there. But it's nicer than a tent. You can build something like this, right? This started out as one of those Lowe's 16 by 16 barn-shaped sheds that you get, and my son built his porch popping off of that and did some interior work and all that, and I've showed you that before in other videos. You could slowly improve one of those, and right now just use it for your garden shed or your art studio or your writer's retreat. You know, I'm getting ready to I'm getting ready to build a little cabin-esque thing that I'm going to use for my office to write, because I just can't get into the groove and write with the constant contact of my wife or other people, you know, but mostly my wife, like coming in, do you want something to drink? Do you want something to eat? I mean, she's lovely and she's nice and she's just being considerate, but as soon as she engages me, I have to pull my head out of the story I'm in or the book I'm writing and turn it towards her, and it's a mess. And so I just need a little place to go. And I'm getting pretty good at building cabins. How do you get good at building cabins? Go build a tool shed. Just go build a tool shed. Do some research. You know, I don't really do how-to videos. I do more inspirational videos, right? But there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, how to build a shed. And the 2 easiest ways I've found is, one, build a deck, you know, a square deck. And instead of putting deck boards on it, just sheath it with like a Vantech or plywood or something like that. And then just build walls and stand them up on your deck. You have 4 walls, put a roof on it, you're good to go. That's oversimplifying it a bit, but you know, this is going to be, I've showed you this before, the guest outhouse. Really, it's for women just to pee in, right? You know, when they come over to visit. And it's not done yet. You know, I still have to get up there. I got to paint it. I have 3 of these things I have to paint. But this is pretty big. I think it's 8 by 12, I think is what it is. And so if it wasn't an outhouse, I mean, you know, you can kind of see how big it is, right? Now picture if I just started with this, put some windows in it, and I have it framed out for a window there that I'm going to put in, a little window. Insulate it, put some OSB up over top of the insulation, you know, paint it. Man, it would be nice. It would beat the heck out of sleeping in that, right? So start thinking about what you're going to shelter people in. Oh, all right, there's one more. I don't want to walk over there. My wife just put a shelter up like I showed you over the goats, over one of our 4-wheelers. I see it standing up over there. Think about that. Think about where you're going to shelter the people. And then something else I was thinking about today, and I realize most of y'all aren't on the amount of property that we're on. I get that. But where are you going to site these structures? A couple things to think about with that, and I think this video is getting long. How long are we? 18 minutes. Yep. So next time I'll talk about where to site these structures, keeping in mind not only flow of work, flow of business, ease of coming and going and doing things, but also security. There's a way to do it and a way not to do it. And so I'll probably talk about that next time. All right, hey, put your thinking caps on. Start thinking about receiving visitors, because you know what? The right visitors could be a big help. All right, I'll see you out there.